Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back, dear listeners, to another episode of J is Mike, the podcast that brings you insights and inspirations for personal development, a stronger relationship, and of course, a better society. I am your host, John Ewu, and today we're diving into a topic that's both essential and often challenging for many couples: sex without intimacy as a couple. Now, whether you've been married for months, for years, for decades, understanding and managing this aspect of your relationship is key to achieving a deeper and more fulfilling marriage. Now, before we jump in, a quick reminder, please, if you're enjoying our podcast, I'd like you to subscribe and leave us a review. Your support means the world to us. Now that we're clear with that part, let's get started. So before we dive into today's discussion, I want to remind our listeners that this episode may contain explicit content and it's intended for mature audiences. So if you have little ears around you, this might not be the episode for them. Let's jump right in. First of all, I want us to look at the terms. To get started, it's essential that we understand the terms we're using. What do we mean by sex without intimacy as a couple? And what constitutes intimacy in a romantic relationship? Now, sex without intimacy typically refers to sexual activity that lacks emotional connection. It lacks deep trust or a sense of closeness between the partners in that relationship. Now, on the other hand, intimacy involves a range of emotional, physical, and psychological elements that strengthen the bond between two people. Intimacy can manifest in various forms, and these forms include emotional intimacy, which definitely comes with sharing feelings and vulnerabilities. Intellectual intimacy, which may have meaningful conversations contained in it. And of course, physical intimacy, non-sexual physical touch, cuddling, etc. Now, when we talk about intimacy in this episode, we are primarily referring to the emotional and psychological aspect of it. Now let's dive into some of the reasons for sex without intimacy. Now that we've established the definitions on this episode, let's explore some of the reasons why couples might engage in sex without intimacy. And it is very essential to recognize that not all couples follow the same path, and there can be numerous motivations behind the choices that people make when they get into a relationship. And the very first reason why people can have sex without intimacy as a couple could be for physical satisfaction. You see, some individuals may prioritize physical pleasure over emotional connection. They can seek sexual gratification without the need for intimacy. Now, physical satisfaction can be a compelling reason for engaging in sex without intimacy as a couple. For some individuals, the pursuit of physical pleasure and gratification plays a very significant role in their sexual experiences. This may involve seeking out sexual encounters solely for the sake of fulfilling their physical desires and needs without necessarily having anything to do with a deeper emotional and romantic connection. Now, in such a case, sex can be seen as a means of attaining a sense of release, a sense of pleasure, and stress relief. Sex can offer temporary escape from the pressure and demands of daily life. Now, this purely physical aspect of sex can be particularly appealing to those who prioritize their own personal satisfaction and are less interested in the emotional complexities that can come with intimacy in a committed relationship. For some couples, focusing on physical satisfaction without intimacy can be a way of maintaining a sense of novelty and excitement in their sexual lives. And over time, the initial passion and intensity that often accompany the early stages of a relationship can wane, and couples may find themselves seeking new ways to keep their sexual connection vibrant. So they might just go for sex without intimacy. Now, when you engage in sex purely for physical pleasure, it can be a way of you exploring new fantasies and reigniting your sexual spark. Now, when you separate physical satisfaction from emotional intimacy, you may be able to indulge in a variety of experiences that can enhance your sexual connection and overall relationship satisfaction. Another reason why couples might go for sex without intimacy could be to experiment. Couples might want to experiment with different aspects of their relationship, and these may include casual sex so that they can expose their desires and boundaries. Now, experimentation can be a compelling reason why some couples engage in sexual intercourse without intimacy. While intimacy typically involves emotional connection, trust, and a deep sense of vulnerability, experimentation can offer a different kind of excitement, and it can offer a different kind of novelty in the bedroom. So couples may feel the desire to explore new sexual experiences, new sexual techniques, or fantasies, often driven by a shared curiosity to push their boundaries and to discover what brings them pleasure. Now, this can involve trying out different positions, role-playing scenarios, or introducing sex toys in their encounters. Some couples may find that experimentation without the confines of traditional intimacy allows them to actually maintain a sense of independence within their relationship. Now, when you separate this physical and emotional aspect, it can provide individuals with a unique sense of freedom and the ability to explore their sexual desires without feeling constrained by the expectations and responsibilities that come with highly intimate relationships. However, it is important to note that while experimentation can be exciting and fulfilling for some people, clear communication and consent remains very essential to ensure that both parties are comfortable and safe throughout such process. The third reason why couples may go in for sex without intimacy is the fear of emotional vulnerability. Some people may have difficulty opening up emotionally, and this might lead them to focus on physical intimacy as a way to avoid addressing deeper emotional issues. The fear of emotional vulnerability can be a significant factor that drives couples towards sex without intimacy. Now, in a society that often values emotional detachment and independence, couples may be hesitant to open up and expose their true feelings and their true insecurities to each other. This fear can lead some couples to prioritize physical intimacy over emotional connection. And they'll do this to avoid that discomfort of a potential rejection which is associated with sharing their deeper emotions. And when you engage with sexual activities without the need for emotional vulnerabilities, that can provide a sense of temporary relief. Underline the word temporary relief from the fear of rejection and judgment, and it can allow you to maintain a sense of control over your emotional boundaries. The key word here is temporary relief. So what we are all searching for is a permanent relief. It's a sustainable relief. And the fear of emotional vulnerability may stem from past experiences of hurt or trauma in previous relationships. When individuals have been hurt emotionally in the past, they may build emotional walls as a defense mechanism to protect themselves from potential pain in the future. Now, these walls can make it challenging to establish deep emotional connections with new partners. This can lead to the preference of sex without intimacy. Physical intimacy can serve as a way to fulfill physical desires without exposing one's emotional vulnerabilities. And this allows you as a couple to maintain a sense of safety, self-preservation in your relationship. However, it's very important to recognize that a lack of emotional connection in a relationship can ultimately lead to dissatisfaction, even in physical sex. And this can hinder the growth of a healthy and a long-lasting relationship. And of course, we cannot undermine external influences. Societal pressure, cultural norms, or simply peer influences. These all can play a role in encouraging sexual activity without a strong foundation of intimacy. External influences can play a significant role in leading couples to engage in sex without intimacy. In today's fast-paced world, couples and individuals are frequently exposed to a myriad of external pressure and distraction that can erode the emotional connection which is necessary for a true intimate sexual experience. The stress from work, financial worries, and the demands for modern life, these all can leave couples feeling very emotionally drained and disconnected. And it can make it very difficult to prioritize the nurture. And it can make it very difficult to prioritize and nurture the intimacy in their relationship. And so couples may turn to sex as a means of physical release or escape. But without the necessary emotional connection, the act becomes more about fulfilling a physical need rather than fostering a deep and meaningful connection between couples. Societal influences such as the portrayal of casual sex in media and the prevalence of hookup culture, it can also contribute to sex without intimacy within relationships. Now, these external influences can create a perception that sexual encounters can be disconnected from emotional attachment or commitment. And so couples may feel pressured to conform to these societal norms. This can lead them to engaging in sexual activities without investing the time and the effort required to build and maintain intimacy. When this happens, the focus shifts from emotional closeness, and sex becomes a transactional or a recreational activity rather than an expression of love, trust, and emotional connection between couples. Another reason why couples would go for sex without intimacy is the lack of trust. You see, lack of trust can be a significant reason why some couples engage in sex without intimacy. We all know, in my previous episode, I dealt in this. Trust is the foundation of any healthy and fulfilling relationship, especially when it comes to the deeply personal and vulnerable act of sexual intimacy. Trust is a cornerstone. Now, when this trust is lacking, couples may be hesitant to open up emotionally, to share their desires, or to express their vulnerabilities with their partners. Now, this can lead to a sense of emotional distance and, of course, a fear of judgment or betrayal, making it very difficult to establish the emotional connection necessary for genuine intimacy. In such a case, couples may resort to physical intimacy as a way to fulfill their physical desires without having to confront the deeper emotional issues that underlie their lack of trust. Sex without intimacy, I want to remind you, can become a way to avoid facing the emotional challenges that may arise when trust is lacking in a relationship. The lack of trust can also erode the sense of safety and security within your relationship. Now, without trust, you may worry about your partner's intentions or fidelity, leading to insecurity and jealousy. This insecurity can make it difficult to fully engage in the vulnerability and emotional connection that intimacy requires. And of course, in response, some couple may turn to physical intimacy as a way to seek validation or reassurance, even if it is only temporary. So while sex can provide momentary pleasure, it often falls short of fulfilling the deeper emotional and psychological needs that come with genuine intimacy. Now, in the absence of trust, couples may find themselves stuck in a cycle of seeking physical closeness without ever addressing the underlying issues that are preventing them from building a truly intimate and trusting bond. Last but not the least, lack of commitment. The lack of commitment can be a significant reason why some couples engage in sex without intimacy. In a committed relationship, both partners typically would share a strong emotional connection and, of course, a sense of trust. This can enhance the level of intimacy during sexual encounters. However, when commitment is lacking in your relationship, you may be more inclined to prioritize physical pleasure over emotional connection. You may view sex as a purely physical act, separate from the responsibilities and expectations that come with commitment. Now, this can lead to a casual approach to sex, where partners may engage in sexual activities without taking the time to build emotional intimacy or establish even a deeper connection. The absence of commitment can also make it easier for individuals in a relationship to disconnect from their partner's feelings and needs, and it can make it easier for them to focus solely on their own desires and moments. So these are some of the reasons why couples will choose sex without intimacy in their relationship. Now, we're not going to end there, because here we're trying to build relationship. We're trying to make your relationship stronger. We're trying to enhance that ground where the family can build a foundation. So now that we've looked at the reasons why some couples might opt for sex without intimacy, what are some of the impacts of sex without intimacy in a relationship? So now we'll shift our focus on the impact of sex without intimacy as a couple. While it can work for some couples, there are potential consequences that I would like you to consider. And I'm not sure where you are at in your relationship. Are you at the point where sex is something that happens without any emotional connection? Do you feel like you are in that place where you just have sex for the sake of having in your relationship, but deep down you don't feel connected to your partner? If you are in that place, this is for you. Before you continue any further, just having sex without intimacy, I want you to understand some of the impact of having sex without intimacy in your relationship. The very first impact I'm going to talk about is emotional disconnect. Sex without intimacy in any relationship can lead to a profound emotional disconnect. While physical intimacy is undoubtedly important, it is the emotional connection that often deepens the bond between couples. Now, when sex becomes solely a physical act, devoid of emotional connection and intimacy, it can create feelings of emptiness and dissatisfaction. Partners may begin to feel like they are merely going through the motions, and the genuine emotional connection that sustains a healthy relationship may begin to erode. Now, this emotional disconnect can manifest in various ways. It can decrease communication. It can reduce affection and a sense of emotional distance. Have you ever heard of married but single? Or married and lonely? You can be well married, but you are so much within a space of emotional distance. When you have emotional disconnection that results from sex without intimacy, it can also impact the overall well-being of you as an individual. It can lead to feelings of insecurity, inadequacy, and a diminished sense of self-worth. Now, when you do not feel emotionally connected during sex, you may question the desirability or the strength of your relationship. This can give rise to anxiety, this can give rise to depression, and this can give rise to a sense of unfulfillment. Now, to maintain a healthy and thriving relationship, it is very important for you as couples to prioritize emotional intimacy alongside physical intimacy. Remember, prioritize emotional intimacy alongside physical intimacy, because the two are intertwined and both are essential for building a strong, lasting connection that goes beyond the physical aspect of your relationship. The second impact of sex without intimacy is miscommunication. Without open and honest communication about desires, expectation, and boundaries, misunderstandings can arise, and this can potentially cause friction within your relationship. Miscommunication is a significant impact of engaging in sex without intimacy as a couple. Now, when physical intimacy takes precedence over emotional connection, it can lead to a lack of understanding and open communication between partners. Without the foundation of emotional intimacy, I'll tell you, you may struggle to express your desires, your boundaries, and your expectations effectively. Now, this can result in misunderstanding, unmet needs, and even conflict within your relationship. When you prioritize sex without intimacy, you may find yourselves as couple in situations where you struggle to communicate your feelings, and this may lead to frustration, disappointment, and overall breakdown in the quality of your relationship. When sex is disconnected from emotional intimacy, it can create a sense of distance between you two. This emotional disconnect can make it challenging for couples to connect on a deeper level and to address issues that arise within their relationship. You see, the lack of emotional connection can ultimately erode the bond between you as a couple, and it can make it difficult for you to maintain a healthy and fulfilling relationship in the long run. Miscommunication stemming from the absence of intimacy in a sexual relationship can have detrimental effects on couples, and it can have detrimental effects in your well-being and satisfaction. The third impact that sex without intimacy may have is the short-term gratification versus long-term happiness. You see, some couples may find immediate satisfaction in sex without intimacy, but it may not sustain a fulfilling long-term relationship. When you engage in sex without intimacy as a couple, you exemplify the conflict between short-term gratification and long-term happiness. While the immediate physical pleasure and excitement of such encounter can be undeniable, you typically lack the emotional depth and connection that are crucial for sustaining a healthy, fulfilling long-term relationship. Short-term gratification in this context might bring temporary excitement and pleasure, but it often comes at the cost of neglecting the emotional intimacy that is essential for long-term happiness. Now, as a couple, when you prioritize short-term sexual encounters over building intimacy, you may find yourselves stuck in a circle of fleeting pleasure, ultimately undermining potential for long-term happiness. And long-term happiness in a relationship is often built upon a foundation of trust, emotional intimacy, and a deep emotional connection between you two. When you prioritize building intimacy over immediate physical gratification, you are more likely to establish a stronger and more resilient bond. Your emotional connection can lead you to a more profound sense of happiness and fulfillment over time. As partners, you become attuned to each other's needs, communicate effectively, and build a sense of security in your relationship. It may require patience and effort to cultivate intimacy, but the reward of long-term happiness and satisfaction in your relationship can far outweigh the fleeting pleasure of sex without intimacy. The fourth impact is, of course, missing out on emotional fulfillment. Intimacy can provide emotional support. Intimacy can provide security and a sense of belonging that sexual encounters alone may not fulfill. Missing out on emotional fulfillment can have lasting consequences on any couple's overall well-being. Now, emotional intimacy provides a sense of security and support, which allows you as a couple to confide in each other, to share your joys and sorrows, and to navigate life's challenges as a united team. Now, without this emotional connection, individuals may seek validation and support from external sources, potentially leading to jealousy, insecurity, and conflict within your relationship. This can leave both individuals feeling unfulfilled and dissatisfied in the absence of the deep emotional bond. Now that you've seen the impact that sex without intimacy may have on you as a couple, I want you to take a moment, reflect on this, and see where you stand in your relationship. Are you at the point where sex without intimacy is becoming the order of the day? Think about your motives and then think about the consequences. And how do you find a balance? So as we wrap up this episode, it's very essential to recognize that every relationship is unique, and what works for one couple may not work for another. But finding a balance between physical satisfaction and emotional connection is very crucial. How do we do that? The very first thing is communication. Open and honest communication, like I said in my other episodes, is key to any successful relationship. Effective communication is a vital strategy for maintaining a balance when engaging in sexual activity without intimacy as a couple. Open and honest communication will allow you to openly discuss your desires, your boundaries, your expectations, ensuring that both of you feel heard and respected. Clear and honest conversations about your physical and emotional needs can help avoid misunderstandings. It can help reduce potential discomfort, and it can foster a sense of trust between partners. So by openly addressing your preferences and concerns, you can navigate this type of relationship dynamic with mutual understanding and consent. And this ultimately can enhance your sexual experience and maintain a healthy connection. The second strategy of striking that balance will be to prioritize emotional intimacy over just physical intimacy. Don't get me wrong, while physical intimacy is essential, prioritize building emotional intimacy first. When you build emotional intimacy, the foundation can enhance the overall quality of your relationship. Prioritizing emotional intimacy is a crucial strategy for couples to seek to strike a balance. Prioritizing emotional intimacy is a crucial strategy for couples who seek to strike a balance when engaging in sexual activities without necessarily delving into deep emotional connections. In such a scenario, cultivating a strong emotional bond can enhance the overall experience and maintain a sense of connection and trust between the two. When you openly communicate your desires, your boundaries, your expectations, you can create a safe and respectful space for exploring while ensuring both parties feel valued and understood. Building emotional intimacy fosters a deeper sense of intimacy and satisfaction, even in casual or non committed sexual encounters. This helps you as individuals to navigate the delicate balance between physical pleasure and emotional connection within your relationship. The third strategy is self reflection. Take time to understand your motivations for engaging in sex without intimacy. Reflect on whether it aligns with your long-term goals and happiness. Self-reflection can be a valuable strategy for you to navigating a sexual relationship without deep emotional intimacy. Self-reflection will provide an opportunity for you to introspect and understand your own needs, your own desires, and your boundaries. And this, don't get me wrong, it's very important in maintaining a balanced and fulfilling connection. By taking the time to reflect on your own feeling and motivations, you can communicate more openly and honestly with each other, ensuring that both parties are comfortable with the level of intimacy they are comfortable with. Now, this self-awareness can lead to a healthier sexual dynamic where both partners can find satisfaction and harmony in their physical relationship. We're talking here about striking a balance between sex and intimacy. The one thing that I will always advise couples not to neglect in their relationship is to seek professional help. If you find yourself struggling with intimacy or the consequences of sex without intimacy, consider seeking guidance from a therapist or a marriage counselor. When you seek professional help, it can help you navigate the terrain of sex without intimacy. In situations where physical intimacy has taken precedence over emotional connection, a trained therapist can provide a safe and supportive environment for couples to explore their underlying issues. It can help couples to communicate barriers and emotional needs. Through therapy, couples can also gain insights into their desires, their fears, their expectations. This can help them bridge the gap between physical attraction and true emotional intimacy. A skilled therapist can offer you guidance on developing healthy communication, establishing boundaries, and fostering emotional intimacy. And of course, helping you to strike a balance that aligns with your mutual needs, your mutual desires, and a more fulfilling and sustainable connection. And in the end, the decision to engage in sex without intimacy as a couple is a deeply personal one. It is crucial to assess what you value in your relationship and make choices that align with your desires and goals. And now remember, there are no one-size-fits-all answers, but open communication and commitment to emotional connection can help navigate this complex terrain. And once again, thank you all for listening. We hope that this episode of J is Mike has provided you with some valuable insights into the complexities of sex without intimacy in a relationship. As always, we encourage you to continue exploring and understanding your own relationship dynamics. And if you have any questions or topics you'd like us to cover in the future, please leave a comment in the comment section and we will get the topic discussed on J is Mine. Until next time, you take care and prioritize the love and connection that brings meaning to your relationship. I am your host, John Ewu.